Have you ever wondered why your finances never seem to move forward, even though you pray, tithe, and walk in faith? What if I told you that the reason might be hidden in a psalm the church never wanted you to read? This isn't just another verse. This is a biblical prosperity code, intentionally removed from the spotlight because it unlocks something too powerful: divine authority over wealth, favor, and supernatural abundance. It's not a theory. It's a spiritual law encrypted in a forgotten chapter of Psalms, a chapter that once crowned kings and shifted nations. And yet, today, it's been silenced. What you're about to hear is so rare, so precise, that only those aligned with spiritual discernment will understand its true meaning. If you're watching this, it's because your spirit is ready to access the inheritance that's been denied to generations before you. You see, the Bible is not just a spiritual book. It's a book of systems, frequencies, and keys. And this particular psalm, it doesn't just bless, it activates. It carries a quantum frequency of divine multiplication, engineered by the Spirit of God Himself, yet hidden by religious systems more concerned with control than awakening. Why hasn't anyone told you this before? Because when you understand that God embedded a wealth protocol inside a song, you break free. You stop depending on broken systems. You stop chasing and start attracting. And for those who benefit from your struggle, that's dangerous. There's a reason why prosperity has been so misunderstood. Because true prosperity, kingdom prosperity, has nothing to do with greed. It has everything to do with alignment, stewardship, revelation, and activation. And Psalm 67 holds one of the most overlooked keys in the entire Bible. You've probably never heard a sermon on it. That wasn't an accident. Somewhere along the line, someone decided that this chapter was too powerful for ordinary believers. But now, God is lifting the veil. And if you stay with me through this video, you'll see why this psalm is not just a prayer. It's a declaration, a strategy, a code. This is your invitation to step into what I call spiritual territory, where wealth is not measured by the world, but by the manifest presence of God in every area of your life. If you've been stuck in financial delay, if you've sensed that something invisible is blocking your progress, this may be the moment where it all shifts. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to awaken something ancient inside of you. Because the truth is, you've been lied to. Your identity, your inheritance, your divine power to prosper, all of it has been edited out of your daily walk. And today, we start putting the pieces back together. But this only works if you watch until the end. Because at the final moment of this video, I'm going to reveal the pattern, the exact activation process hidden within this psalm, and what happens when you speak it out loud, aligned with quantum faith. So stay with me, listen closely. This may be the one revelation that unlocks your next divine season. Watch until the end. This is more than information. This is your spiritual inheritance calling you back. Because when you start paying attention to what was quietly removed, everything begins to make sense. Psalm 112 is one of the clearest examples of a hidden Bible psalm that was never meant to be emphasized. Not because it lacks power, but because it has too much of it. This song describes a person who experiences biblical wealth, stability, influence, and peace. Yet the text makes something very uncomfortable clear. This person is not chasing money. He is aligned with God, and because of that alignment, provision follows him. Psalm 112 speaks of someone whose house is filled with resources, whose influence extends beyond fear, whose legacy remains strong even in dark times. This isn't symbolic poetry meant only for the afterlife. This is a biblical wealth revelation, describing what happens when spiritual positioning is correct. And that's exactly why it was pushed to the margins. Because a believer who understands this doesn't live in survival mode. A believer who understands this becomes free. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you heard a sermon explaining why wealth and riches are in his house? Appears in Scripture without apology? Why does that line make religious systems uncomfortable? Because dependence is easier to manage than freedom. A financially broken believer is easy to control, but someone who understands God's code for riches stops begging and starts stewarding. Here's the part most people miss. Psalm 112 is structured intentionally. It begins with reverence, alignment, and inner posture before it ever mentions money. That's the code. Financial breakthrough in Psalms never comes through hustle first. It comes through positioning. The psalm reveals that prosperity is not something you chase with effort, anxiety, or religious performance. It is something that responds to spiritual alignment. This is why these scriptures were effectively censored, not erased, but never explained. Censored scriptures don't disappear. They are simply left unopened. And once you begin to see that this psalm is less about currency and more about frequency, you realize why so many faithful people work harder and harder, but never break through. Because effort without alignment produces exhaustion, not abundance. And what comes next explains exactly how that alignment is activated. And maybe now, things are starting to make sense for you. Maybe you're beginning to realize that your lack of prosperity was never about your effort, your prayers, or your worthiness. Maybe, just maybe, it was about what they never told you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Psalm 112 is not just a text, it's a threat. Not to you, but to the very systems that benefit from your spiritual and financial limitation. This isn't about conspiracy for the sake of drama. This is about truth that was buried, covered with doctrine, and replaced with guilt. Ask yourself, why would a church avoid a psalm that literally says, "His house will be filled with wealth"? Why would religious institutions downplay a promise that directly connects righteousness with prosperity, stability, and influence? It's not because it's not biblical. It's because it's too liberating. Psalm 112 doesn't produce followers of systems. It activates heirs of the kingdom. And heirs don't beg, they inherit. They walk in spiritual authority, not religious dependence. What you need to understand is that for centuries, some churches have relied on emotional dependence, convincing people that lack is holy, that wealth is a temptation, and that struggling is somehow more spiritual. But that's not what this psalm teaches. This psalm cancels the curse of scarcity. It doesn't shame you for wanting abundance. It tells you how to position yourself for it. And that makes it dangerous to any structure that thrives on control. Because when people stop associating poverty with purity and start aligning with the divine principles of prosperity, everything changes. And that's the real conflict. That's why there's been a silencing of the promise. Because this isn't about prosperity gospel. This is about kingdom truth. It's about understanding that your Father is not a God of just enough. He is the God of overflow, of open heavens, of supernatural multiplication. And this psalm dares to say it clearly, powerfully, unapologetically. Religions that rely on guilt don't want you reading, much less declaring, a verse that says, "Wealth and riches are in his house, and his righteousness endures forever." That single line destroys generations of conditioning, because now you start to question. Now you start to see. Now you stop depending and start activating. And if this is making sense to you right now, I want you to comment below. Nobody holds me back anymore. Let the algorithm see your voice. But more importantly, let your spirit hear declaration. Don't forget to hit that like button. Share this video with someone who's been stuck in religious guilt. And subscribe, because what comes next is going to take this even deeper. And now we step into the part they never taught you. The part that goes beyond belief into spiritual technology. The code of transfer. The Bible says, "The wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous." But no one told you how to position yourself to receive it, because access without positioning is powerless. And Psalm 112 is not just a poetic promise, it's a spiritual formula for supernatural activation. Most people think you get blessed by trying harder, praying louder, or working longer. But Psalm 112 reveals something different. It reveals that you don't chase wealth, you attract it. This chapter describes a person whose heart is steady, whose faith is unshakable, who fears nothing because their trust is in the Lord. That kind of faith authorizes heaven to move. That kind of spiritual alignment opens the gates of provision. This is the spiritual code of wealth transfer. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about becoming the kind of person heaven trusts with abundance. When your mind is fixed on fear, scarcity follows. But when your spirit is rooted in divine identity, resources begin to respond to your presence. That's the mystery. It's not what you do, it's who you become. Psalm 112 outlines the posture: reverence, generosity, courage, truth. These aren't random traits, they are frequencies, kingdom frequencies. And when you vibrate at that level, the unseen realm delivers what's already been written. This is not hype, this is biblical mechanics. This is the blueprint of divine inheritance. If this is resonating deep inside you, if your spirit knows this is truth, type in the comments right now: Divine transfer activated. Let the algorithm feel your faith. Like this video so the message spreads. And subscribe right now, because the final key is coming next. And it will unlock the moment that changes everything. And maybe you're still wondering, is this real? Can simply reading Psalm 112, a few verses that most believers skip over, actually unlock something in the spirit? Let me tell you something that might shift your entire perspective. A woman wrote to me after watching one of these videos. She said she began declaring Psalm 112 over her life. Not once, not randomly, but daily, with intentional faith. For 7 days, she prayed the words out loud. On the 7th day, she received a phone call she wasn't expecting. A job offer. Not just any offer, it tripled her income. Another message came from a single mother. She told me she was drowning in debt, overwhelmed by fear, and had nearly given up. But she saw this verse. She felt something ignite. She began to repeat it with boldness. 4 days later, she was contacted by a lawyer. An inheritance she didn't even know existed had been released in her name. You might call that coincidence, but when it starts happening again and again, it stops being random. It becomes spiritual law in motion. But the most powerful part of these testimonies isn't the money. It's the peace, the authority, the shift in identity. These weren't women who won the lottery. These were daughters who remembered they were heirs. The kind of people Psalm 112 describes. People who are no longer begging for blessings, but walking in kingdom alignment, radiating clarity, peace, and boldness. That's why this video isn't just a teaching. It's not just a story. It's a spiritual activation. You've been exposed to something sacred, a frequency from heaven that most people will never hear. And now that you've heard it, you can't go back. Something is stirring inside you because your spirit recognizes the truth. You're not here by accident. You're not just watching a video. You're standing at the edge of a new season. The final step is yours. Psalm 112 doesn't work because it's magic. It works because it's a prophetic code, and when you step into alignment with it, the invisible becomes visible. Resources shift, doors open, fear dies, and legacy begins. So if you felt that stirring, that confirmation deep inside you, I want you to do something bold. I want you to type in the comments right now. The code was revealed. I am an heir. Let those words be your seal. Let your declaration unlock the next dimension. Some of you may even feel led to type more. You can say, my season begins now, or divine inheritance flows to me. Say what your spirit feels. This is your moment. And now, get ready for what comes next. And if what you just heard stirred something in your soul, just wait until you see what's coming next, because the next video will blow your mind. It's called The Hidden Battle Over Your Money. And trust me, it's not just about finances. It's about why you felt stuck, blocked, delayed, even while praying, fasting, and doing everything right. You're going to discover the spiritual forces that have been quietly sabotaging your abundance, and exactly how to break them once and for all. You've come this far. Don't stop now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the moment that could change everything. And if this video lit something inside you, share it with one person who's been fighting in silence. They need this truth, because the war over your prosperity has already begun. But now, you have the key.